Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about Swagger and my opinions. Pretty much, yeah, so let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what are your opinions on Swagger and how do you fit Swagger into a Node application? And the short answer is, I think Swagger is a really great thing. I really do. And fitting it into a Node application is you basically add it. Done. That's it. My entire statement right there. But that's going to be a really short video if I don't elaborate a little bit. So the reason why I like Swagger is because it is a standard for something that should have been a standard for a long time. And I absolutely love standards. I even like the shitty ones. And I don't like them because they're shitty. I like them because they create a common understanding of something that is undefined. And I hate things that are undefined. I really do. Especially when I have to deal with people who, well, they have to deal with me, of course, as well. But when there's two different viewpoints on something that should work, where there's supposed to be a common understanding, there's this long, excruciating process of trying to figure out, okay, what do you mean when you say that? What do I mean when I say that? And is there some way for us to find a common understanding so that we get the same result? That's usually the way it works when you're making an API. It's always the case because, I mean, shit, half the job of doing software engineering is just to figure out what the hell do you mean when you say that, and what's supposed to happen when you mean when that's when the thing that you were talking about happens, right? And what do I mean? Like, just to get everybody to understand the actual thing that is going to happen is half the battle. There's so much time that goes into that, and this is one of those reasons why the standards of whatever you're going to standardize takes so long. If you look at like how much time goes into the browser standards, like CSS standards, like all of this stuff, it takes tons of time. Because half the battle is literally this. One part is to figure out the technical solutions, and the other part is to just get everybody to align on how everything's actually going to work in painful detail. Like really painful detail. And Swagger, or the Open API spec and all of this good stuff, has kind of started that process for us. It has, well, it's not as adopted as I would like it to be. I wish this was as adopted as Can I Use or some other like reference manual for, oh yeah, this is supported in the browser, this is not supported in the browser, or something like that. I wish it was this established in our work process. I really do, but it's simply not the case. But if you can use something like this, it's a really good thing because it is going to save you quite some time in writing your own documentation, which is the big benefit of this, because it will help you just define your own API, not only for the person who's going to use your API, but for you as well. What I like to do with the Swagger API, if I'm actually going to use Swagger, is that I actually use the Swagger file as part of my own testing. Like, I actually have a test runner that goes through my Swagger documentation and hits my API with the different requests that are specified in the Swagger file, and then it diffs the expected result. So I have a test case for each of the endpoints that I declare in my Swagger file, and it hits the endpoints, and then I know if I broke my interface. This is a very efficient way for you to figure out if your API is actually doing the thing that you are claiming in your documentation, because that's all Swagger is. It's just a documentation piece. Apart from that, because it's a standard, there's tons of nice tooling and stuff of this nature where you can actually use Swagger to auto-generate documentation websites and things of this nature, static websites and stuff like that. There's so much that you can gain from just having a standard. And adding it to a Node API, I mean, Node probably has among the best support for Swagger. There's tons of libraries, tons of stuff. So what I want you to take away from this is that, at least for me, when it comes to Swagger, I absolutely love it. I think it's a great thing, and I wish we had more standards like this. Like, the more standards we have that everybody kind of aligns on and says that this is the thing we're using. It doesn't have to be the best thing in the world. It just has to be something we all agree on, that this is what it means, this is how it's supposed to work, and then we just kind of follow that until we find a new standard. This makes everything easier. It's easier to create tools around it. Not everybody's doing like their own custom thing, which makes everything much harder. And we all know what we're talking about. Swagger is one of those sorts of things where I wish it was more adopted than it is. And if you do use it, I think that you should, especially if you're using like an open API or if you're producing a public API of some sort, because the people who are going to consume your API have a standard. It's much easier than following your most likely very shitty documentation, because everybody has shitty documentation. Pretty much. Well, a lot of us have. So with Swagger, that makes the whole thing easier, and for you it actually makes it easier as well, because if you have an API and you do want to make sure that you didn't make any breaking changes in that last push that you did, well, if you have a CI pipeline or some automated testing that actually uses the Swagger documentation to run tests against your API, then it's very easy for you to figure out if you broke something. So Swagger, 2 big thumbs up for that thing. And adding it to Node is as simple as doing a few Googles or searches on NPM or GitHub or something like that, and you will find tons of resources for how to embrace that into, or to include it into your own work process. Have a great day.